In the recent election, dramatic events unfolded across America. There were tears of joy for some, tears of sorrow for others. Anger directed at the Democratic Party, and frustration over Donald Trump's victory. While some celebrated all night, others were left feeling desolate and alone. Headlines from liberal media outlets echoed their outrage. Rolling Stone declared, "America elects a convicted felon as president." Vanity Fair lamented, "Donald Trump wins 2024 elections, putting democracy on the edge." Progressive media and social media platforms continually reminded the public that the man chosen by Americans for the White House had been the instigator of the January 6th coup attempt. He's a convicted criminal held accountable for mishandling the COVID crisis, which led to the deaths of 1 million Americans. The United States has elected a twice impeached, convicted felon as its 47th president. Critics of Trump warn that his second term will upend American politics. They predict mass detentions, deportations of migrants, agencies targeting his political opponents, press restrictions, appointments of more conservative Supreme Court judges, and even the potential use of military force against citizens. And this is only the beginning. Many expect more to come. Scrolling through social media reveals long lists of alleged plans and agendas attributed to Trump. Critics say he will seize political power, manipulate federal and judicial systems, and consolidate his position as an authoritarian leader. His administration might enact COVID abortion bans bypassing Congress, roll back climate protection measures, reinstate student debt, and even abolish the Department of Education. The list goes on, but the message is clear. Self-reflection seems absent among liberal parties and their supporters. They always attribute blame to the system or the public, claiming, "We are fine as we are." This sense of moral superiority has led liberal Democratic parties toward political obsolescence. This is why right-leaning or far-right parties are gaining power. Harris's defeat and Trump's victory highlight that ordinary voters do not appreciate condescending moral lectures, performative grandstanding, or hollow rhetoric. Today, people resonate more with tangible issues like the cost of wheat, fuel prices, immigration, legal and illegal, identity crises, and employment. It's true that race and gender are still significant concerns. Kamala Harris undoubtedly faced an uphill battle, yet the scale of Trump's victory and the reputation he carried make it evident that the Democratic Party's strategies, operations, and communication have serious flaws, not the voters' perception. Examining the statistics highlights just how extensive these problems are for the Democratic Party and leftist ideologies. Trump became the first Republican president in 20 years to win the popular vote in the US. There is no ambiguity in this achievement. Trump also secured a decisive lead over Kamala Harris in electoral college votes. All swing states, the 7 that could have gone either way, ultimately favored Trump. The US Senate swung to the Republicans. The House of Representatives followed suit. Trump pulled off a remarkable 400 win. How could a disgraced, impeached, and convicted candidate secure such a significant victory? This question will haunt Democrats for the next 4 years. Starr County in Texas, known as the most Hispanic-dense area in the US, with a 97% Hispanic population, saw Trump winning 58% of the vote. This county, which had been a Democratic stronghold for 130 years, flipped to the Republicans under Trump. This trend wasn't isolated. Black and Hispanic voters showed increased support for Trump. Minority groups, traditionally championed by Democrats, shifted toward Trump. A similar erosion of trust in left-leaning parties is observed in Europe. More than 10 million voters who supported Biden in the previous election chose not to participate this time. Disenchanted with the Democratic Party and its policies, they stayed home. Of course, Kamala Harris faced challenges due to societal biases around race and gender. Yet figures like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Summer Lee managed to retain their seats. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris lost. Why? It is crucial for America and liberal parties to analyze where they are going wrong. Understanding why leaders like Kamala Harris continue to falter is imperative if they hope to change course and develop effective strategies. Today's discussion revolves around the American election, but parallels can be drawn worldwide, from South America to Europe to Asia. The liberal versus right-wing dynamic is playing out similarly. In most countries, both Democrats and Republicans have dedicated voter bases whose choices are predetermined. Election outcomes, however, hinge on the undecided middle voters, those who prioritize authenticity and clarity in candidates over lofty rhetoric, slander, or abstract ideas. Trump's bluntness may seem crass or rude, but his lack of pretense appeals to many. By contrast, Kamala Harris's approach feels overly managed, scripted, and cautious. Her attempts to please everyone left her appearing inauthentic. As Winston Churchill once said, "To try to be safe everywhere is to be strong nowhere." Kamala's balanced and cautious image ultimately hindered her ability to project strength. Americans prefer leaders with a commanding presence, a 56 inches wide, so to speak. Kamala's perceived hypocrisy and overcaution undermined her appeal. She tailored her stance on Gaza differently for Muslim Americans and Jewish Americans, leaving her vulnerable to accusations of inconsistency. This alienated a large group of Muslim Arab Americans, many of whom opted not to vote. It's not that Trump would resolve the Gaza conflict, but at least Trump's stance is seen as straightforward, not duplicitous. When Americans demanded change, Kamala Harris's campaign insisted, "Everything is fine, you just don't realize it yet." Issues like immigration, minimum wage, healthcare, and the Gaza crisis were brushed aside. Her campaign's message was essentially, "I'm just Biden Part 2. Democrats presented statistics showing economic improvements and lower unemployment. However, voters struggling with inflation, rent, and grocery costs remained unconvinced. Kamala lacked a compelling plan or grand vision. Trump, on the other hand, made sweeping promises even if many were implausible. That's politics. Right-wing movements like MAGA Make America Great Again in the US or Brexit in the UK capitalize on grand narratives that instill belief in voters that a clear, transformative plan exists, while the long-term consequences of such movements may be uncertain. These grand visions prove crucial for winning elections. Liberals often fail to present similarly compelling stories, instead focusing solely on facts. Even with a vision, execution matters. Behind Trump's victory were his campaign managers, Susie and Chris. During his victory speech, Trump mentioned Susie 7 times. This acknowledgement highlighted the strategic role played by skilled campaign managers, recognizing growing discontent among young American men with Biden. Trump made concerted efforts to win their support, adding to his base of older white men. He bypassed traditional media and focused on podcasts and social media platforms, engaging with figures like the Nelk Boys, Logan Paul, and Joe Rogan. Trump leveraged new media to his advantage. This marked the first instance of a president-elect thanking podcasters in an acceptance speech. In contrast, Kamala Harris and the Democrats underestimated the influence of new media. They even declined interviews with major figures like Joe Rogan. Mainstream media appearances were lackluster at best. The left's inability to solidify its defense remains a significant weakness. Illegal immigration was already a contentious issue in America. Harris offered no clear policy or solution, allowing Trump to dominate the narrative, with Elon Musk amplifying fears of open borders. Trump claimed Harris was enabling illegal immigration for political gain. Kamala's attempts to counter Trump on abortion backfired when he shifted responsibility to the states, avoiding direct confrontation. Meanwhile, Trump emphasized his hardline stance on immigration, promising mass deportations from day one. The right knows how to exploit public fears effectively, while liberals struggle to address them. What does it mean to be a liberal American? Freedom of speech appears lacking on the left. Dissenting voices risk cancellation before their arguments are heard, while Hollywood stars may endorse Democratic candidates. The public increasingly turns to social media influencers instead. Talk of democracy, liberty, and justice feels hollow, especially in the context of events like Gaza. The Democrats failed to present a unifying cause worth fighting for. Kamala Harris's primary appeal was that she wasn't Trump. But that alone isn't enough to win elections. When voters asked Harris what she stood for, her answers lacked conviction and failed to resonate. Meanwhile, Trump offered concrete, albeit controversial, positions on taxes, tariffs, immigration, and MAGA. The Democratic Party appears fragmented. Bernie Sanders, noted that working-class Americans abandoned the party because the party abandoned them first. Sanders could have been a strong presidential candidate, but the Democratic Party's complex superdelegate system sidelined him. Sanders' ideas, universal healthcare, affordable education, and minority inclusion, were compelling, but the party squandered the opportunity to rally behind him. The Democratic Party's focus on wokeism has become polarizing. While gender identity and social issues are important, policies like deciding a child's gender in schools without parental input alarmed many Americans. Amid rising food, rent, and gas prices, the emphasis on such issues felt out of touch. Wokeism, once a progressive ideal, has now been weaponized and turned into a liability. Despite technological advancements, left liberals struggle to utilize them effectively in elections. Platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are dominated by right-leaning narratives. The left remains reliant on mainstream media, which has lost public trust. Elon Musk's vocal support for Trump and his influence over platforms like X further amplified conspiracy theories against Democrats. Scare tactics, like Musk's claim that this could be the last election if Trump doesn't win, effectively mobilized voters. Technology now plays a pivotal role in politics, granting power to those who control its reach. The left must adapt to this new reality to compete globally. The Democratic Party's biggest misstep was its leadership choices. Kamala Harris's campaign lasted just 100 days, limiting her effectiveness. However, the root problem lies with Joe Biden and the Democratic leadership. Biden's cognitive decline was an open secret, yet he refused to step aside. A younger, more dynamic candidate might have posed a stronger challenge to Trump. Biden's reluctance to relinquish control cost the Democrats dearly. Politics isn't a short sprint, but a relentless marathon. Victory requires sustained effort, focus, and adaptability. Trump's unwavering commitment to his political goals secured his re-election. The Democrats, meanwhile, are left grappling with anger, memes, and self-pity. Instead of introspection, they point fingers and shift blame. Liberal parties worldwide must ask themselves why right-wing factions are so effective and determined. Adopting new tools, strategies, and methods is crucial for future success. In every democracy, a strong opposition is vital to prevent unchecked government power, whether in America, India, the UK, or Brazil. The opposition must learn how to counter its adversaries effectively. For satirists, leaders like Trump provide endless material, fueling political discourse. The world is watching America closely, as the ripple effects of its elections will shape global politics. Understanding how to maintain democratic balance is more important now than ever.